A decade ago, Sam Altman released his first version of How to Start a Startup at Y Combinator Startup Talk at Stanford University. While his talk has been translated, edited, and updated over time, the core of his thesis has relatively stayed the same. I guess the only difference now is that he's driving a $4 million Koenigsegg Regera. Must be good to be a non-profit who's not in it for the money. Regardless of that fact, I don't know if I can throw any shade on him for owning a very nice car, but I've done us a service here. Here are Sam's 4 points for startup success distilled. TLDR, what you need to maximize startup success is very simple. A great idea, a great product, a great team, and great execution. Frankly, it sounds like I'm somewhat preaching to myself, so let's go over these ideas. First up, a great idea. Sam Altman says to wait to start a startup until you have an idea you feel compelled to explore. I've talked about this a lot in that that frustration and curiosity are frankly the best two things that you need to pull from when it comes to persevering on your idea. Are you imminently frustrated? Are you imminently curious? That will keep you going. Next up, if you have several ideas, work on the one that you think about most often when you're not trying to think about work. The best companies are almost always mission-oriented. You'll get more support on a hard, important project than a derivative one. You want something that sounds like a bad idea, but is actually a good idea. You need a market that's going to be big in 10 years. I like this advice. I think it's important not to just look at the size of the market, but the growth potential of the market and whether in 10 years from now it'll still be viable. It's going to take you 10 years to build an idea to something that is actually mature and making money. And so having a 10-year outlook for your product, pretty juicy stuff. Number 2, he says you got to focus on a great product. Until you build a great product, nothing else matters. Say less, Sam Altman. Say less. It's better to have a small number of users who love your product than many who like it. We need those raving fans. One way that you know when this is working is that you'll get growth by word of mouth. If you get something people love, people will tell their friends about it. Start with something simple to make it easier to create a great product. And finally, successful founders are fanatical about quality and details. I don't know if I agree with this last one so much because I'm more of a let's ship it, let's get feedback, because feedback is more important than trying to get it perfect. But I understand for some startups in some contexts, it's important to have a polished approach. Number 3, a great team. The number one cause of early death for startups is co-founder blow-ups. I've never had a co-founder blow-up before. I just burn people out. College is a great place to meet potential co-founders or working at a company. The best teams usually have 2 or 3 co-founders. You want to be proud of how much you can get done with a small number of employees. If you compromise and hire someone mediocre, you will always regret it. 3 things to look for in a hire. Are they smart? Do they get things done? Do I want to spend a lot of time around them? It sounds like the MEI, the Merit Excellence Intelligence Model that I talked about in a couple of newsletters ago. And finally, Sam Altman says, to start a great startup, number 4, you need great execution. Execution for most founders is not the most fun part of running the company, but it is the most critical. I find this to be fascinating because I love the execution part of it. But then again, I'm the type of operator and founder that likes to be deep in the trenches. Execution gets divided into 2 key questions. Can you figure out what to do? And can you get it done? Once again, sounds like the MEI culture model. 2 parts of getting it done is focus and intensity. And the 5 jobs of a CEO is set the vision, raise money, evangelize the mission to people you're trying to recruit, hire and manage the team, and set the execution bar. Sam Altman reminds us to not worry about the competitor at all until they're actually beating you with a real shipped product. Momentum and growth are the lifeblood of startups. And so, in sum total, I would relatively agree with Sam Altman's core 4 ideas for starting a startup. And I appreciate all of these ideas. They're succinct, execution-oriented, and essentially a build, build, build mentality. Doesn't matter. You want beanbags? You want table tennis setups? You don't have a product. We need to build a product first. I guess in sum total, seeing that this his presentation was over a decade ago, I guess the lesson here is that if we all did this well, we'd be driving a $4 million Koenigsegg Regera as well. All the best.